And it's funded really through local dollars, but the trust fund doesn't make funding available for various service, to various service organizations and veterans programs. We did apply last year. We were not funded. It was a very competitive grant, but we were invited to submit another round of, an application for another round of funding. This would be to, no personnel costs involved. It would be, for example, to defray the cost of registration and lodging for members of the Veterans Court Review Team to attend the Drug Court Professional Certification Training, which is usually held in the fall in State College. Another expenditure would be the cell phone calls for the adult probation officers who are in charge of supervising veterans who are in the Veterans Court program. That particular adult probation officer is also a veteran of the armed forces, which is always very important because that is the one member of our staff who is a veteran, but we thought it's important for him to be supervising veterans to have that rapport. So some of that would be just for his cell phone costs. Some would be for drug testing, supplies and equipment, because those who are involved in the Veterans Court program do submit random drug testing throughout their time as they go through the mandates and guidelines of the program. And one of the other expenditures would be for gift cards, which we do use as rewards for those who do comply with all the court mandates and successfully complete the various phases of the program. So we submitted that yesterday, because yesterday at 3 o'clock was the deadline, but we just didn't have anything ready for the meeting 2 weeks ago. We were still looking at some budgets, what we want to do with that. But that was submitted. They did acknowledge receipt of our grant application. He said he would call us or email us if they had any questions. So far they have not, but we'll see. But we'll keep you posted, of course. That grant year would not start until June 1st. And I believe they'll notify everyone in March, so there will be a waiting period, but we'll certainly keep you informed if we are funded. Hopefully we will be.
I hope we approve your request to apply for it.
Okay. Sometimes the deadlines just don't match up with the meeting dates.
A lot of work. Well, for $4,000, it sounds like a lot of outcomes that sprinkled around pretty many places. So usually, these are bigger and they're more narrow focused, but that's good.
Well, it is true that last year we did submit an application was for almost a lot more, but that was really for, the bulk of that was for part of the salary of that APO. But that particular probation officer is also the chief officer in charge of home monitoring and electronic confinement. And almost the bulk of his salary is already paid for through the IP Crossroads grant. And when we put the budget together, my concern was if you're pulling that from two different grant sources, it could prevent some auditing issues, and we thought that that was already pretty well covered. But there were other expenses that we thought that we could apply for, and they were certainly part of that budget. And we'll see what happens. But this is one application that does not require signatures from anyone.
Wow. Because it's under a threshold or something.
Yeah, it's the only one was Scott Core had to sign it. The main contact person under the grant guidelines is Mr. Core, Veteran Services Director. He did sign it, so his signature is the only one on the application. But that is for the grant guidelines from the trust fund.
Yeah, that was one thing I was just going to point out, is that Scott is involved with this, so that's a...
Yes, he is listed as the chief contact person, again, as mandated by the grant guidelines, and his signature did have to be on the grant application, which he was more than happy to do. We had talked to him a couple weeks ago, and we're fine with that.
You mentioned we were invited to apply. Is that any indication of our chance of success, and does a year behind us add to those chances? Do you happen to know how competitive or who's been getting the awards?
I don't have a list of who was awarded, and it's spread out between not just county governments, but also veteran services organizations, nonprofit organizations that work with veterans. And when we got the word that the grant funding was available, I actually emailed them and said, we applied last year, we weren't funded, are we allowed to apply again? And he said, sure, we invite you to. Okay. I mean, they didn't initiate the contact with us. But
okay.
Regardless, I did know, but before we started, I want to make sure that we were eligible to apply for a second round of funding or again this year. And he said, fine. We'll go from there. And the good thing is, at the start of the grant cycle, the Veterans Court program will have already been in operation for 18 months. And that might help. And it's certainly a very proactive thing that we've done as part of our entire overall intermediate punishment plan. This is one element of it. And I believe that we've also been able to at least assign one participant to the day reporting center for extra help. And that's, of course, the whole idea. That's just implementing that whole IP program that we have and making use of the DRC as well.
I'll make a motion to approve.
It's been moved and seconded, and John, we continue to applaud your professionalism in going after all these grants, and you always give a very complete report